Hello and welcome from DAM Machine Shop Inc., the home of Damn Best Racing Carburetor. That's also the greeting to our voicemail. I wanted to make a little video on some of the things I learned from our newest high flow metering block and what I'm going to be using. And most of it's hard to explain to somebody that some of these ideas may take from 1 to 2 years before they actually become a product. There's quite a bit of design and redesign of a product before it finally gets made, and then even the machining process. But some of the things I truly liked about this was the fact that, the only thing that was of important interest in this is to get the restriction in the metering block and the volume through the metering block as high as possible for the high methanol and the power added blow-throughs. And even if somebody got a supercharger car, they wanted to put carbs on it, they could produce 3,000 or 4,000 horsepower. That these buggers would move enough fuel. So the thing that I decided to do was to line up the jet perfectly, because when I'm wet flowing, every turn the fuel makes is a point for turbulence or resistance to moving the fuel. So lining the jet completely up and giving it some level of depth, because fuel doesn't want to turn at right angles. So in the regular jet, and I may have said this in previous things, just retracting the jet out of the hole. Sometimes somebody will get especially the methanol carbs, and it'll have a little copper washer or 2 copper washers under the jet. Well, we didn't change the size of the jet, and we didn't change where it was going, but we pulled it out of the hole to give it a little bit more distance to make the turn, and that definitely increases the flow when you're trying to get more flow through the standard metering blocks. And the other place that was a issue is when the main well was going vertical, the transfer hole to where the booster is was a spot of flow resistance. So what we decided to do with these high flow ones is to put the booster hole right in line with the main well. Well, these things turned out so awesome, and we don't need 5 emulsion, because all you're using the emulsion for in these is to balance out just a tiny bit of the booster signal and an anti-siphoning device. Most of it's just about getting fuel through it. They're not really worrying about brake-specific fuel consumption in these deals. Just the opposite. So they don't need more than 3. We had learned that in all the high flow stuff we did. Most of the time we use 2, but they certainly don't need more than 3. All right, with all that said, we've been doing some wet flow work for, and I'll put pictures of it soon, for a pair of BLP carbs that some customers sent us, and they wanted them upgrade with our metering blocks and our float bowls, and they're on methanol. So they use a 2.4-barrel application, and they use the Pro Stock metering blocks. So what we were doing is doing some development. So we changed the fuel hole, which is this hole here, to reduce the resistance from the diagonal. Like I say, a lot of stuff I'm showing you is pretty crude. And normally we don't have the dimple, but we went in here and played with the dimple a little bit, so it would open up, and for the gasket, going through the gasket would just give it a little bit more area, because the hole was round. So we played with that, and you have to ruin some parts. These are Pro Stock metering blocks, so we have to play with it and sometimes ruin stuff to wet flow it and test it on our wet bench. So the thing we decided to do, and this is an early drawing, and I wanted to explain this, how I go about it, and you'll see lines that just seem to run anywheres. Well, from the center of the jet to the center of the booster hole, and at some point, let me move this so you don't see the reflection of the light there. we have to put the hole in the top. Hole in the top so it intersects those two going down through the metering block. So how do I know where to put the hole? I just go from center to center and then extend it out to the top, and then that tells me when I'm coming from the end of the metering block, where to put the hole. The other thing I decided to do, instead of having the emulsion holes coming in as they do now through the side of the metering, through the main well, and I have one of my patents, my 251 patent, is for shearing inside the metering block. What I'm deciding to do is to increase the shearing in the metering block by using now taking the hole for the air bleed and making it through the main channel. So there'll be shearing going on through the fact that half of this, the raw hole for the tapping, which will probably be like a 136 to 138 drill, will be bisecting the main well in these 5 locations, and so we're going to get a lot of shearing going on in the main well, and then still being able to put the whatever number of air bleeds that we want to put in the main well. And with the change in this, we're also going to have to change the angle. Instead of it going vertical and have a connecting hole at the top for the idle fuel delivery, which comes down here and then goes to here, and then when you get a hole where the curb idle screw is in the side, which these are going to get the larger curb idle screws, and then this goes out to the idle, and that would directly feed the transfer slot. Alright, and then we're going to go from this well. We're also going to have a connecting hole. So we have our traditional idle that connects the idle fuel to the bottom of the main well. So you got an option, just like I do in our current main metering blocks. You can either put the idle delivery on the bottom of the main well, or you can put it right next to. Have to mind all the cobbing up of this pro stock meter block. Like I say, we're working on it, so we're trying a lot of stuff. Right here is the the auxiliary idle for methanol, high flow, and to increase the sensitivity of the booster. It's at the bottom next to the jet. So we'll have that provision in there. So it's it's ultimately tunable. It'll go through the back and connect these 2 channels here. So there's a huge amount of adjustability, and the reason why I'm showing this now is because this to let people know how long it will take before this gets in the pipeline. I like to use that word, pipeline, for the products. It may take a year before this actually gets in the pipeline, and how much effort it takes prior to that. But we're always trying to keep damn best, the performance technical leader in fuel delivery, because we also got to remember, if somebody doesn't want the float poles on this, we still have the E-jets, so it can be also electronic or standard float pole technology, or we actually have float poles with scavenging on it. So we have a lot of technology that we can deliver to customers, but we wanted to show where we're going in the future with our metering blocks to make it more jet sensitive, higher flows, less turbulence in the metering blocks. It's creating problems for flow unless we actually want it. We're going to continue to expand our product line, so I'm pretty excited about all this. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you decide to share these videos with your friends. Bye.